We continue our conversation with Bruce Lipton. By the way, we have a video of Bruce's for sale at the bookstore that is just fascinating. Call them at 800-243-1438 and ask Scott about that. Just fascinating lecture, illustrated lecture that gives you some real insight. Talk about adding an owner's page to your own human existence. This is some key information. It also lends some real interesting answers to that whole nature versus nurture debate. And as Bruce will tell us, we're not stuck with our genes, and our genes don't control us. And he said parents are genetic engineers of a sort. I guess we ourselves are genetic engineers of a sort, how we choose to respond to our environment, how our own consciousness, the role that plays in that. Bruce is getting into that, and the demands that we make on our own system. Bruce, this is answers to so many questions. It's amazing how popular science just gets such a tiny bit of the picture when they could give us a whole lot more. I guess that's where you're coming in. You're telling us a bit about the makeup of the cell as a community. Every cell being an intelligent life form in and of itself, but it's agreeing to be part of this larger organism, a body of sorts. Go ahead.
Well, the part that we were talking about is that the environment connects to the genes via the surface of the cell, where the environment hits these like a keyboard, and this keyboard then connects and activates the genes, so that again the cell is always adjusting itself to the environment. And basically it's perception. These molecules are perception molecules. So a perception of the environment means that the environment signal is read, and then a behavior is activated to respond to that environment. And as you brought up earlier, Lorelei, that it was not necessary to go to the genes. Most of the machinery is already in the cells right now, and that's why you can remove the genes from a cell, and the cells generally can live 2 or more months without any genes in them. As long as all the machinery is in there, the cell will behave and organize its life without the genes. So that really is one of those important little caveats, meaning we should pay attention to that fact that we didn't need the genes and the control is still there. So that, again, de-emphasizes the role of genes in controlling the expression of the organism. So we were talking about the environment. And when cells come together in a community, they must then listen to a community identity. In other words, like a CNN broadcast, where they have to tune into this station to hear what the community is doing at any one moment, so that they coordinate their functions. And the very interesting aspect about that is, on the surface of every individual cell in your body are antennas that are tuned in to your identity. So that each cell has these very special proteins on the surface, which are called, interestingly enough, self-receptors, receiving self. And so therefore, this is what keeps all the cells in the community. In fact, if you have cells in your body that do not bear these identities, these antennas on the surface to read the environment, your immune system will eliminate any of those cells that do not have those antennas.
Because that's one way to tell them from foreign invaders.
The ones of self all bear the same uniform in a sense, and this is these antennas. Well, the interesting part then is then the community's information is sent out, and all cells bearing these antennas are then tapped into the central voice.
Uh-huh.
And why this is really interesting, as Cleve Baxter has shown, you don't have to have all the cells in the body to do this. I could take some of your cells out of your body and move them into a petri dish 2 miles away.
Uh-huh.
And their still antennas are tuned to your identity because they're part of the community, that if I can elicit an emotional response in you, your cells 2 miles away have the antennas. They read that response.
Now, we know that was true of plants. Plants could pick up once they kind of attach themselves to a person. But I didn't know that my broadcasting of information to my cells was going to go over 2 miles.
Well, this is the interesting part, because when we never really said where the self was. When you really come down to the biology, the self is somewhere in the environment, and it's not localized, because that's what allows cells that are separated from you, like Cleve's experiment, where I move these cells away. They're part of your cells, they are your cells, and I put them in a petri dish and move them away from you. Even though they're at a distance from you, they're still in the environment with antennas to read the environment of self, which is not localized. It's out in the environment. This comes up to play very interestingly. We've talked about this once before. It was when people receive major transplants, hearts, lungs, combinations.
Yes. Uh-huh.
They start to acquire some of the character or emotional, some aspect of the person who donated the tissue.
Right. They like French fries, or
Yeah,
they
well,
have blue eyes and their eyes turn, or something. Can happen.
and basically, what have we said? Well, the memory's in the cells, because that would be, we'd like to logically say that. But look, I was a cellular biologist, and I've worked with a cellular intelligence system, and there's no capability of storing that memory in that cell. The bottom line is the memory is in the environment.
Or the receptor sites that code for that particular frequency.
They download that. Those are the antennas that pick up that station, so that the person died, but their cells, which are in large masses when transplanted in that form, those cells are carrying the antennas for that person. So that's what the interesting part. In other words, to donate this tissue, the recipient, we have to shut off their immune system, because the immune system will ordinarily get these other cells out of the body.
Oh, right, because they're not equipped with the same self-receptors.
Right, so we have to shut them off. So that allows an artificial situation. This allows us to take somebody else's cells and put them into your body. But
where's the broadcast mechanism coming from, though?
Where's the source, you mean?
Where's the source? Yeah, because I can understand that we're all radio transmitters and receivers, and that our body is tuned to, I'm on radio Laura Lee. You're on radio Bruce Lipton.
Right.
And
I have a different frequency than you have, and my cells have different antennas to receive that.
Right.
And here's the interesting thing.
So they're picking your stream out of the whole mix of all of it.
Exactly, because it's just sort of like a television set where we put an antenna up into the field.
So you can get channel 4, 5, or 6.
Yeah, but on a television set you can vary all the different channels. Generally, on a human, you're reading one station only.
What about schizophrenia? Maybe somebody's got two stations or one's interfering.
Real interesting reality is that basically let's just say that my receptor, one of my identity receptors, is flipping from one to another, back and forth or something.
Yeah.
From one form to another form, then I could be just like picking up this station, then picking up that station, then picking up this one and that as it flips back and forth. Which proteins can do. So
proteins can flip back and forth like that? They're that malleable?
Proteins change their shape in the environment.
Oh, interesting. That explains how malleable physicality is when it's asked to express different things.
Absolutely, and the malleable part, ultimately, we'll get to that part, is that I can rewrite the genes. That's the malleable part that nature...
That's where we're going with this. We can rewrite our genes.
Rewrite the genes. So what we were talking about is each cell has intelligence.
Yeah.
It's independently capable of adjusting its genes to read its personal environment. As it reads the environment, to adjust the genes to fit, so the cell fits in the environment. But when cells join in a community, they forego their own decision to respond to the personal environment and now respond to the central command.
Yeah.
And in that process, the central command can then select programs and change, because the belief is, the perception is being sent by the central command.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Perceptions, cells actually, as I said, read the environment through molecules, which are perception molecules that pick up the signal and then convert it into biology. Well, the issue is that perception molecules are created in response to new environments, so that we learn. As a new signal comes in, we create a new receptor to receive it and a new response to it as well. So we learn these perception units. Well, the issue, of course, in primitive organisms, it's straightforward. Whatever the signal is, that's what they learn. But when you get more complex organizations like humans, for example, perceptions are not just simple little signals. They're arrays of signals coming in simultaneously that we group together and then add meaning to.
Right.
So that we learn, our perceptions are learned, and then the issue about it is here's where all the problems arise.
For humans.
For us.
For human beings.
Is that if we misperceive, we take all these signals in but assign it the wrong meaning, then when we send the signal to the cell, then the cell adjusts itself. It adjusts itself to the misperception, and as a result does not any longer fit the real environment.
So you
because
get out
the
of
environment
sync.
had signal A, we saw it perceived it as B, the cell adjusts its structure to make physical B, yet we live in environment A.
Right.
And so the issue is, that's where the issues go awry for us, because our perceptions are our beliefs, and our beliefs select our genes because our genes are going to set the program to match the environment that we perceive.
Okay.
And if we misperceive the environment, then we misadjust our genes. Even though the cells have all the intelligence, they're going to adjust to what you told them to adjust to.
Right.
And they're going to do what you told them to do, because they're not acting in their own smart, intelligent selves. They're now acting in response to what the community said.
They're trusting us to get it right.
Absolutely. So what we don't recognize is, because we are told that the machine is running by itself. And in failing to know that, we are failing to recognize that every one of our thoughts is shaping the body to conform to the thought.
We've abdicated our responsibility here as its leader, so...
Well, we abdicated our claim to responsibility, but that didn't mean that we're not doing it. We're still doing it. We just didn't know we were doing it.
Right.
So that's why you could be flat on your back, sick as a dog, and yet if your belief system says, my God, I got to get up and I must do this, that within moments your whole physiology is going to be different. You're going to be up, dressed, and out at work. Somewhere along the line you have to own that. What was the difference? And the answer was, when I made my intent known to the system adjusted me to conform to the intent. And multiple personality people do this all the time.
How so?
Because when they change their personalities, and their personalities have different perceptions or beliefs or, views of the world, that's what distinguishes each of the, the multiples. That when each personality comes in, what it will do is adjust the biology to conform to that perception.
Is that a real phenomenon, people with multiple personalities, then, that you can test?
Yes.
And they have different self-receptors?
No, I don't know if they have different It's just that their psychology will change, and then and because it's a belief-oriented system, when they go from one personality to the other personality, the biology accommodates the belief change. So for sure, like EEGs, which are like fingerprints, are distinctly different for each of the personalities. Totally
Fingerprints. So that means the molecules actually rearrange themselves
the
in the
EEG
fingerprint?
fingerprints.
Oh, the EEG.
Yeah.
So it's a different wavelength of
totally
consciousness.
different frequencies being broadcast now, and the cells then begin to respond to that different frequency by adjusting themselves in different parameters than they had with the other personality was in charge.
Well, that's what I was saying then. If it's a real phenomenon that you can test because you can show up these different EEGs, or how, EEG fingerprints.
Yes.
I have one EEG fingerprint,
Yeah,
and I can't change it even if I tried to fake it.
And that's yours, and nobody else will have that. And when I read that character is
but
you.
I can't, even if I try to conjure up another one, I couldn't do it.
You can, but it's work, and actors are good at that.
Oh.
But they can get in their head, and they can really buy the other, the personality that they want to act. They become that to a certain degree. And in fact, real interesting, really good actors like Dustin Hoffman, for example.
Yeah.
He was playing, the Willie Loman story. I forgot what that was.
Death of a Salesman?
Death of a Salesman.
Yeah.
And he was playing that, and he's an actor. I mean, if when you've watched him, he plays whatever role he is. He's that role at that point.
Yeah.
Well, he played Willie Loman until it sent him to the hospital because he got into that vision of living, and it changed his physiology, and he got so sick he had to stop the play and go to the hospital.
Oh, I could see that for a play where it's night after night after night.
Yeah,
but
this is interesting. So we are actors and actresses in our daily lives, and we're on a stage that we call our life, and we play every day. And if we replay our beliefs every day like that play, then we shape our organism like he shaped his body at that moment.
But fortunately, we can write our own script.
Well, but if you know you're running to a script, you can write around it. If you're unaware of it because the mass media is telling you that you're not involved with the running of your own body, that your body runs by genes and you just happen to be the victim of these decisions by genes, then you don't exercise any control because you don't realize that you have any control.
Right. You've advocated, but the show goes on. How do you rewrite your genes? Is it through consciousness? Is it through the activities? If you go jogging every day, is that rewriting your genes? If you sit in meditation and, conjure up, a flow of energy with the universe, is that rewriting your genes? How do you do it?
The first thing is you have to start being aware of your consciousness. And this is the stuff that goes on in your head, and you're talking to yourself at the stop.
How we choose to respond to our environment, how we, our own consciousness, the role that plays in that, Bruce is getting into that, and the demands that we make on our own system. Bruce, this is answers to so many questions. It's amazing how popular science just gets such a tiny bit of the picture when they could give us a whole lot more. I guess that's where you're coming in. We continue our conversation with Bruce Lipton. By the way, we have a video of Bruce's for sale at the bookstore that is just fascinating. Call them at 800-243-1438 and ask Scott about that. Just fascinating lecture, illustrated lecture that gives you some real insight. Talk about adding an owner's page to
where the environment hits these like a keyboard. And this keyboard then connects and activates the gene so that, again, the cell is always adjusting itself to the environment. And basically, it's perception. These molecules are perception molecules. So a perception of the environment means that the environment signal is read, and then a behavior is activated to respond to that environment. And as you brought up,
telling us a bit about this, the makeup of the cell as a community. Every cell being an intelligent life form in and of itself, but it's agreeing to be part of this larger organism, a body of sorts. Go ahead.
Well, the part that we were talking about is that the environment connects to the genes via the surface of the cell.
Your own human existence. This is some key information. It also lends some real interesting answers to that whole nature versus nurture debate. And as Bruce will tell us, we're not stuck with our genes, and our genes don't control us. And he said parents are genetic engineers of a sort. I guess we ourselves are genetic engineers of a sort.